Hello, I'm Stuart Laing. I'm Master of Corpus Christi College. My first career was in the British Diplomatic Service, and my last two jobs in that career were as ambassador in Muscat, Oman, and ambassador in Kuwait. And now I've become more of a historian. I've written a history with another ex-ambassador, written a history of the relationship between Britain and Oman. And I've done research on Arabs in East Africa, and especially the abolition of slavery in the Western Indian Ocean. The biggest direct effect, of course, as we saw, was Bahrain, with a series of demonstrations and protests on focused on the Pearl roundabout, and then active intervention by the GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council Peninsula Shield. The demonstrations in other places were in lower key, and the rulers reacted in different ways in different places. If we're now talking about differences rather than similarities, we want to think, for example, about the parliament in Kuwait, which is active and obstreperous, has for a long time, not just in the context of the Arab Spring fallout, made problems for the Al-Sabah, who run not only as the ruler of the country from the Al-Sabah, but about half the cabinet are as well. But a different there again in Oman, when the only person in the cabinet is the chairman of the cabinet, which is the Sultan, the ruler himself, Sultan Qaboos, and all the others are not. But there, the Sultan Qaboos reacted in a different way by replacing some members of his cabinet who'd been there quite a long time, by people who'd been elected. Interestingly, not elected, of course, as ministers, but elected to the Shura Council. I think what we can say in general terms is that the terms of the debate have changed. Although these countries were not, except for Bahrain, were not affected in a major way by the fallout from the Arab Spring directly, what has happened is that people, and especially young people, have begun to question the position of their rulers and the way that the systems of governance in their societies in a way that hasn't been done before. And of course the methods, not only the terms of the debate, but the methods of the debate have also changed. People are now using, and again young people especially, are using social media, they're using Twitter, they're using their mobile telephones, not only to arrange demonstrations and protests, but also to exchange ideas. We are talking about societies which are based on a rentier economy, where the government derives most of its revenue from oil and gas and not from taxation. So the relationship of the government to the people is very different. And the attitude of the people towards customary Arab ways of governance are also different from those that we found in the countries bordering the Mediterranean. So the fact of there being rentier economies made it a little bit easier for some of them simply to buy themselves out of trouble. And also the trouble wasn't quite as bad, except of course in Bahrain, wasn't as bad as it was elsewhere. I think the interesting questions are here. I mean, it's good to analyse what happened, of course, but I think the interesting questions, and these are unanswered, is what's going to happen in the future. How will these changed terms of debate that I just mentioned, how will that affect things in the future? How will rulers react to the idea that different kinds of government might be appropriate? Maybe both rulers and their societies will say no, they're very happy with continuing the customary Arab rule by an autocratic ruler, and taking account of the people's views through consultation and shura. But maybe they won't.